今天晚上教育讲座呢，是我们的 IvyCompass 指南针教育咨询来推出的。那么我们这个机构呢，是致力于将北美口碑最好的前藤校招生官，包括今天晚上的 Jason， 还有一些独立的升学顾问啊，包括前2周所推出的 Kevin， 艺术作品集，我们的龙飞老师，还有一些这个课程啊、竞赛啊等等非常优质的，经过我们精心筛选的教育资源对接给我们全球的华人家庭。除此之外呢，IvyCompass还提供定制化的志愿者服务、社会影响力、科研以及实习等背景提升，包括 Allison 前段时间所 hosting 的一个科创项目啊，也是非常受欢迎的，给我们学生带来了很多 competitive 的 advantage。那我们这个机构呢，不同的地方呢，在于我们不仅仅把目光放在升学的辅导上面，在这个过程当中，我们特别的看重在整体的辅导过程中有一个 mentor， 帮着孩子把他们的最优势，包括个人的品牌，包括他们该展现的这种 passion，还有他们自己的 leadership 和一些对科研的一些热爱，都能够在这个真实的情况下提升提高，然后展现给我们要去的这个学校的这些招生官们。还特别看重我们在这个过程当中提高学生的软实力和领导力，为他们孩子的这个全面的成长，我们都在认真负责的保驾护航。那2023年、2024年呢，目前为止我们的录取结果只展现了一部分，展现了一部分。当然结果是非常的喜人的。我们非常 proud 我们的整个 team，几乎我们97%的学生其实都进了就是 top 40的 school。如果您想持续的了解我们指南针和 IvyCompass 呢，欢迎您去就是上去搜我们的这个公司的网站。在公司网站上面，如果有一些家长想看到以往你 miss 掉的，还特别想 catch up 的一些topic 和导师，您可以看我们网站上的这个最后一个档叫 Webinar。那历往的一些导师，包括我刚刚 mention 到的龙飞老师，我们的导师其他的这个话题，包括一些 SAT 的和 research 的话题，和 Jason Paul 艺术这个指导，包括Ray。我们非常著名的economic 大家学生都很喜爱的这位导师，也是帮助了很多学生做了很多出色的这个 research 项目。可以去观看一下他们的这个分享内容。那刚刚我也 mention 到了，你可以看到 IvyCompass 走向的学生是非常的成绩是非常可喜的。当然我也想强调一下，因为学生很努力，导师又指导的比较认真负责，才能出这样一个好的效果。不仅仅是导师好，如果学生的执行能力很强，也能把他们从一个本有的 level 提升到1到2个档次。所以我们想强调的是，在选择升学这个赛道上面，您选择的导师非常重要，选择对的导师不一定是最好的导师。那么这样的话，当导师跟学生很匹配的时候，他们有一点点像这种互相激发各发的潜能，学生也能把导师的潜能充分的激发出来，那么导师也能把学生的这个优势充分的激发出来。那这样的一个 relationship 是相当高效的。那么我们也再次强调，不是所有来申请藤校的学生，在我们这样的一个辅导过程当中获益。其实任何一个学生，只要您觉得，这个孩子是有潜力的，是需要有一个导师能够在这个过程当中，能够让家长不那么焦虑，在整个高中期间是知道该要做些什么事情，能让孩子成长的，都可以到我们这个机构来帮着孩子。让他从一个 level 升到另外来 level， 就是说我们比较看重能够从一个被动型的学生，能够通过导师的 mentorship 成为一个主动自发自觉性的一个孩子。那我觉得这个过程就非常的这个有意义了哈。那么如果您还没有关注到我们呢，欢迎您扫码这个微信公众号关注我们一些持续推出的一些非常有价值的内容和分享和 knowledge。其实我们常常说，孩子的成长的天花板是我们家长的 knowledge 和家长的格局。那么如果您持续的学习，了解更多的信息的话，对于孩子整个过程的这个成长是非常有这个帮助的。如果您想在我们的微信群当中来持续关注我们这些分享呢，那么就扫描这个小助手的2维码，您就可以被邀请到我们的这个 升学的这个微信群，那你每一周和每一个星期和每一个月的这个好的信息的分享，您都能看到。那今天晚上呢，非常高兴，我们是邀请到了我们这个 IvyCompass 的一个驻家的一个这个辅导导师吧。那 Jason 呢，他是哈佛大学本科的前招生官，他也是哈佛肯尼迪政治学院的前招生办副主任。他也同时是 Georgia Washington 的大学 MBA 的项目的招生办副主任，所以你可以看到，不管是研究生申请 MBA 还是申请本科，Jason 都有非常浓厚的 knowledge 和这个爱心来辅导我们的学生。那今天晚上呢，他是会分享这么几个内容。首先，第一个呢，就是哈佛大学内是招生的这个流程是怎么样的？我们都想窥探一下，到底我们的学生 application 上去以后，他们这些人在背后做哪些工作？他们是怎么来看待我们的学生的？那今天晚上，这个我相信很多家长都非常好奇。那今天晚上是这样的一个，可以看看到底这个 application 进去以后，整个的流程是什么样子的？Jason来给我们揭这个密哈。然后还有一个呢，就是来回答很多家长都会有的问题，就是课外活动到底应该体现哪些素质，哪些课外活动应该去做的，哪些是可能会浪费时间的。那么我们今天晚上的聚焦呢，还是让Jason分享这些信息。那么Jason，我相信我们还会邀请他持续的上来我们的平台，跟我们分享其他的核心内容。那今天晚上是核心在这个课外活动哈，那什么样的夏校能够真正帮助到升学这几个内容？最后呢，我们还是会留30分钟到40分钟的时间来给大家来问问题。所以您在听Jason分享的过程当中，欢迎您把这个您的问题放在 chat box 里面，但是请你记住，一定是点击那个 everybody 啊，点击 everybody 的话，这样的其他家长也可以看到您提的问题，那么就不用重复了哈。然后我们最后也会给大概10分钟的这个连麦，您如果觉得更好能表达您的孩子的问题，那么请限制于一个问题来为那个asking Jason 来跟他互动一下哈。那么现在let me give the floor to Jason. Jason, let's use warm welcome to welcome Jason for your next presentation, and we're very much looking forward to it. Thank you for your time tonight. Go ahead.
Thank you for the introduction.
Let me stop my sharing.
Okay. Excellent. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. Thank you for the introduction, Sophia. I'm excited to have this opportunity to chat with you about the college application, specifically talking about the benefits of extracurricular activities is what I'll be discussing, and the kind of the impact it can have on your college application, and also the advantages it has as well in terms of building one's skill set in terms of the technical skills, but also the soft skills and interpersonal skills as well. Just want to kind of give you a kind of a background about myself. I've spent pretty much my entire professional career working in higher education, specifically college admissions. So I spent 15 years at Harvard University. I've spent on and off 5 years at George Washington University. I sat on their admissions committees. I interviewed students as well. So I have a real kind of insight in what it entails on how these decisions are being made as well. And I can kind of elaborate that a little bit more throughout my presentation. But through this experience, I realized that students weren't fully presenting themselves, right? They've done all these great things, right, up to the point of application, but when they submit their application, there was somewhat of a disconnect. So I kind of raised my hand and said, you know what, I want to work with students, I want to work with families like yourself to be able to kind of fully represent, right, the students' kind of great accomplishments within the application. So it's really important to kind of really underscore what makes students tick, right? What makes you, right? So everyone is kind of unique. Everyone has our own individualized interests and kind of talents and skills and passions. So the goal is kind of finding ways to communicate who you are through the college application, right? So through kind of all the components it takes to be able to kind of demonstrate to these admissions committees, one, that you are worthy of admission, two, you're going to have impact on that college admissions campus as well. So just kind of a brief background about myself as well. And I just want to make sure as I work with students, my motto is it's not a transactional relationship, right? It's more transformative, right? Both on from my side, learning about the student and their family, imparting my experience, my 20 plus years of experience on the student as well. So this is a working relationship. We'll get to know each other over, hopefully years of kind of relationships in terms of me being a college advisor and you being the student as well. So that's just a little kind of background about myself. So tonight I would like to kind of discuss kind of what it entails, give you kind of an inside view on what happens inside the admissions committee meetings, right? Because when you press that submit button, what happens, right? So I'll kind of talk to that a little bit. I'll also kind of define what extracurricular activities, for the sake of kind of not saying extracurricular activities, every 2 seconds, I'll shorten and abbreviate it with EAs. So we'll kind of, everyone knows EAs equals extracurricular activities. So what are they and why do they matter for your college application? Then I'll speak to how to kind of get started, like where to start in terms of your extracurricular activities as well. And then I'll give you an example of a student that I work with in terms of what they did in high school and revolving around their extracurricular activities and how that helped them. And also, did that translate to what they're doing in college right now? And then if time permits, we'll have some time for Q&A. So that's going to be the agenda for tonight, okay? So I cannot tell you how many times I've heard students echo these sentiments each year. And I'm going to read this quote. I wish I hadn't experimented more with my side interests sophomore year, like taking online Russian course or recording an album with our band, because junior year, everything just gets so busy, right? There is less time to figure out what I really like, all right? So for those students that are listening to me right now, if you are in your freshman year of high school or your sophomore year in high school, allow yourself the opportunity to explore activities and experiences you think you might be interested in learning more about. Versus, right, to this quote, waiting into your junior or even your senior year to start the exploration of these activities. Because many times students can feel kind of overwhelmed, right, at trying to manage and juggle all the competing priorities that they have in their life, right? They're striving for good grades, right? They're studying and prepping for the standard examinations like the SAT or the ACT. They have family responsibilities, right? And, as 16 and 17-year-olds, they want to hang out with their friends. So there's a social pull as well. So there's a lot kind of going on in your life, right? So try to avoid, right, these stresses and be proactive, right? And take advantage of the time, right? And for those students that are listening to my voice that are in the junior and senior year, yes, there's still time, but you have to be a lot more kind of aggressive in terms of securing extracurricular activities because they are extremely important in your application, okay? Oops. So again, when you get all the components to your application, right, you have it looked over, you feel confident about your application, and you press that submit button. what happens? So on the next slide, I'm going to more focus on Harvard, but you can assume that there are other top colleges and universities that have similar statistics, okay? So let me kind of show you, let me give you some data. As we know, right, data is an important tool that everyone uses in terms of providing, whether it's solutions to problems or demonstrating and showing, having kind of information in terms of what's being said. So I'm going to show you some data from Harvard University, and this is probably from 2021 as well, but just wanted to share it with you. So if you look at this data, there's close to 40,000 students, applicants, that are academically qualified. And what this means is these 40,000 applicants had a GPA, had academic coursework that shows rigor, had a competitive test score that Harvard, one of the world's most rigorous universities in the world, deemed to be academically qualified. 40,000, right, of the applicants. Of that 40,000, they are only admitting 2,000, right? If you do quick data, that's like a 5% admit rate. And I think in 2022, that admit rate percentage went down to about 3.2%, right? Ultra competitive. And if you kind of span over to the right there, 8,000 of those applicants had perfect GPAs, right? 2,700 had a perfect SAT verbal score, the ones that took the SAT. 3,400 of those applicants had a perfect math score. And I'm not sharing this data to scare you. I just want to give you some kind of background information, okay? So Harvard and other schools could conceptually, what? Just be lazy, right? And they could just take the easy way out and admit all those that are considered academically perfect and be done with the entire admissions process. However, that's not how it's done, right? Or nor should it be done, because Harvard and other schools are seeking to bring in a diverse class of students each year. And I'm not talking about diversity solely from the standpoint of race and ethnicity. I'm talking about diversity across the board, right? Students' academic interest in terms of diversity, right? What do they plan on studying? Where are the students from geographically in the world? What is their kind of citizenship as well? And as we know, when you have a diverse class, that brings in diverse perspectives, which allows students to engage in thought-provoking kind of dialogue amongst their peers and also their faculty. And colleges and universities love that, right? They really love the interchange, the kind of conversation based on one's background, right? Having those conversations, and those conversations, again, where students can kind of learn from one another. That's the goal of the admissions committee. And that's why they just don't admit everyone with a perfect SAT score or ACT score or a perfect GPA, right? Their goal is to bring in academically qualified students, right, within a diverse class that will have kind of impact on what? The class, the university as well. So really, you should be asking yourself, how do you distinguish yourself amongst this competitive applicant pool, right? You see the data there, right? It's very impressive, right? And you have people from all around the world applying to these top universities and colleges, including Harvard. So how do you separate yourself from that competitive applicant pool, right? It's important to what? Highlight the other components of the application aside from the academics, right? So it's important to kind of underscore your essay, your recommendations, and truly, and I'm not just saying it because I'm presenting it tonight, your extracurricular activities, okay? Those are very important in terms of the admissions process, all right? So aside from these numbers, again, not trying to scare you, but I want to kind of showcase and show you the importance of the other factors outside of the academics that can kind of give you an advantage in a very competitive applicant pool like those at Harvard and other schools as well, all right? So just to kind of give you that background. All right, so this wheel here, this is the practice of looking at the whole person, right? It's an approach that admissions committee uses in terms of reviewing applications holistically. So it takes into consideration each component that you see on the screen here, into consideration, rather, like I just mentioned earlier, focusing in solely based on GPA and test scores. The former dean at Harvard College was quoted years ago as saying, making admissions decisions is more of an art than a science. Meaning there's no kind of magical formula for being admitted to these colleges and universities, right? They don't put one's when you press submit, that application doesn't go through a computer programming, right? And then it spits out a decision. It doesn't work like that. It relies on human analysis and experience, right? So admissions committees can be comprised of faculty, senior administrators. In some cases, it could be students as well, right? Because they want a diverse committee as well and have different perspectives. What a faculty might see in an application, maybe a staff member or a student may not see, and vice versa as well. So I believe, this is my kind of theory, as much as we discuss the importance, right, of artificial intelligence, I don't believe AI is going to be a part of making college admissions decisions. It's always going to be on the human case. All right, so let's look at the wheel here. Let's look at the different icons of the wheel here. I know I'm supposed to talk about extracurricular activities, and I will, but I would be remiss if we don't talk about some of the other components of the application as well. So let's kind of start off with essays here, all right? So there are generally two types of essays. There's a common application that many schools use, where you submit kind of basically one application through this common application platform, and then you can kind of select what schools you want to send it off to. So the common application has an essay that's 650 word limit essay. That is, again, submitted to each school that you're applying to. They have 7 different prompts, right? You can choose one of those prompts, including one where you can choose any topic kind of your choosing. So this is really where you can kind of be creative. So that's kind of one type of essay, right? It's those common application essays. And then the other essay is kind of the supplemental essays. These are kind of more school specific, right? So this allows you, the student, to kind of write about why you are applying fill in the blank college and university, right? Or they'll have what shows fit, right? They want to make sure that it's a good fit for the student and also for the college, right? So they have those questions. Why do you want to apply to Harvard? Why do you want to apply to UCLA? Why do you want to apply to Duke University? So you need to kind of do your research on the specifics and the connection there. And then there's supplemental essays that could speak to your leadership skills, right? What type of leader are you, right? Or talk about your teamwork skills, right? Explain or communicate to us when you demonstrate a collaborative experience, a teamwork experience. So generally speaking, essays serve as a kind of a window into who you are, not as a student, as a person, right? Those are the essays, right? So they offer you the opportunity to kind of write about what makes you unique. Every student that's listening to my voice right now, no one's the same. Everyone is different. Everyone is unique. It's our job, right, to underscore, to highlight that uniqueness, okay? So, think about, ask questions like, what inspires you, right? What motivates you, right? What kind of wakes you up in the morning and you feel like, I'm ready for the day? What's the energy behind that, right? So it really kind of also gives you a chance to kind of showcase your soft skills, right? Around what? Leadership, around resiliency, around teamwork, communication, critical thinking, decision-making, all those important things. And one practical way to develop these soft skills is, what do you think it is? I can't hear you, but I'm going to answer for you. It's engaging in extracurricular activities. That's why it's important. So if you haven't engaged in extracurricular activities, it's going to be much more difficult for you to write about these soft skills that many of these colleges and universities love to see, all right? So that's the important piece, all right? So what other wheel, what other icon can we talk about? Let's do recommendations, right? Letters of recommendations are from teachers, they are from school counselors, and other sources of individuals that help admissions committees get a more complete picture of you as a student and also as a person as well. So your recommendation letter should reveal a number of things about you, the student. They should speak to your academic strengths, right? That's important. And also your interest, also your personal qualities, maybe the role that you have in your school, maybe the role that they have in your community. And if they're speaking to if they're able to kind of speak to your community, your role there, then it's important for you, the student, before you ask someone to write you a letter of recommendation, you should have a conversation with them, right? You should tell them about why you're applying to this specific school. What have you done outside of school that they don't know about, so they can write it in there, right? So that's the connection. So whatever the letter of recommender writes, they're supporting maybe what you wrote in your essay or what you listed in your extracurricular activities as well, right? So in order for this recommender to provide examples of your work and qualities, you must gain what? Practical experience inside the classroom and also outside of the classroom. And the outside of the classroom experience can be covered off by what? Community service, volunteerism, internships, research projects, projects, excuse me. And all of these things are labeled under extracurricular activities. Here's a secret. Colleges love volunteer work and community service, right? They love the fact that you, the student, right? I just said everyone's unique and have their own skill set. You have talent. You have a talent that you have developed and will continue to develop over time. Admissions committee says, you know what? Don't keep that talent to yourself. Share it with others, right? That's important. So again, through community service and volunteer work, again, labeled as an extracurricular activity, you can kind of do that as well, right? So even though you see on this kind of icon here, these icon, this wheel icon, even though extracurricular activities has its own kind of separate icon, the EA is the only one I believe is able to be interconnected and intertwined with the other components of the application. You see leadership there? You can gain leadership through your extracurricular activities, right? You see the awards, you can get awards through your extracurricular activities. Your recommenders, as I mentioned, can write about your extracurricular activities, all right? All right, so let's do a couple more and then we'll kind of move on here. What about alumni interviews here? The alumni interviews are, let me see, is part of many schools' kind of application process, right? Either as a requirement or an option. So the alumni, they are not official members of the admissions committee, but they can add value by offering an analysis of your personal qualities, right? Because they don't have access, many, to your transcript. They don't know about your GPA. They don't know about your test scores in SAT and ACT if it's an alumni interview. So they want to get to know you on a personal level as well. I just want to just make note of this. Many students go into these interviews with nervous energy, right? And there's no need for any anxiety, any nervous energy, but I get it, right? Because it's an interview about you pursuing your academic kind of next chapter in your life. So there's, there could be pressure there. But let me just say this. Think of the interview as a friendly conversation with someone that's wanting to get to know you a little bit better, right? So they're going to be asking questions about you, but interview can be a two-part exchange as well. So you should always have questions ready to go, right? So two important elements to bring to the interview. One is honesty at all times. Always be genuine, always be your authentic self, right? So don't kind of answer questions based on what they think or what you think they want to hear, but pull from, again, your authentic self, right? Second element is curiosity. Curiosity is huge for me. So these interviews are designed so you can really learn more about the school, right? And then obviously they'll get kind of an idea of your background as well. So in the interview, prior to going in, always have 2 or 3 questions prepared to ask the interviewer and don't ask questions that you could probably find on the website, right? Ask questions that are specific to you, okay? Specific to you. So really kind of think about your background, think about what you want to learn from a college get from a college education, think about some of the things that you've done in high school that you want to continue in college, and ask questions based on, do they have those opportunities, right? And resources at that college. So ask those kind of specific questions, all right? And then let me do one more and then we'll move. Life experiences, that's important, right? So as I mentioned, I'm a big transformational type of relationship guy versus transactional. And applying to college can be very transactional, right? You, the student, you are giving them something. You are giving them a package of your GPA, your grades, your test scores, your essays, your letters of recommendation, right? All the things that you see on the screen, you're presenting them in an application. And then schools are then in turn giving you something back, and that's consideration for admission. However, schools want to have context, right? When evaluating your achievements. So what other challenges, burdens, time commitments, life experiences, right, that you see here, do you have while doing all these great things, right? Having a strong GPA, taking the SAT or ACT, doing all the extracurricular activities that I'm hoping that you'll do kind of in the future, right? So if they're saying, if you are able to achieve all these great things, right, in school, while having something going on in your life that other applicants may not have to go through, they want to know that, right? So for an example, if you have to take care of your grandmother 3 days a week after school, right? That's kind of a time commitment that you have from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. You have to take care of your grandmother. And you do that 3 days a week. Not everyone has to do that, but you still have consistency. You still have shown academic achievement. You still are engaged in extracurricular activities. Or it takes you 2 hours to travel to school from your home and travel back. Not many students have to do that, right? So you need to kind of communicate that as well. So that's important. So in terms of the admissions committee reviewing your application, part of that is the analysis that many schools have. I'm sorry, I'm going to lower my screen here. I think that's important, yes. So, and then lastly on this icon, and I'm going to touch on leadership a little bit later, and obviously you'll see extracurricular activities as well in a bit. But these components that you see on this kind of wheel, this is what they look for. This is how they review applications, and they review applications holistically. And these components are analyzed and discussed and analyzed and discussed over and over again amongst the admissions committee until they feel they have gotten it correct, right? So that's important. All right, so let me move here. Oops, sorry. So why do extracurricular activities matter? And really, why should you get involved? I think a couple of things here. So they matter because they show impact, right? It allows you to make an impact. So schools, right, colleges, they consider themselves more than just institutions for academics. They are communities, and they want to know that their students will be contributing to society while they are on campus, but also kind of beyond as well. So they want students, right, that graduate from their college who will make a difference in the world, right, and become change agents. I know that sounds a little corny, but truly that's what they want, right? They want you to be able to kind of have an impact on what's going on in the world as well. And extracurricular activities can demonstrate that trajectory over time through service and through impact. So I would think impact is one in terms of why they matter. Also, it allows students to expand their network. So students will have the opportunity to engage with people you may not normally cross paths with, but they share, right, the same kind of interests and also have similar kind of goals, right? So your network is kind of critical for assisting you in terms of relationship building, right? And this new relationship that you may have that you've kind of connected through one of your extracurricular activities, you never know who you'll meet, right? It could open doors to kind of new opportunities that you never thought about, right? Kind of going in, right? So it allows students to kind of gain an insight that, again, you may not have really kind of thought about, right? So the more you network, the more you grow personally, right? As a student and also professionally, right? So, I've worked with students in MBA programs, right? Part of being successful in an MBA is not just your academics, it's the networking piece. Networking, right? So this is something that I encourage you, student, is to make sure that you are networking as well, all right? And doing it kind of early on. And then lastly, it allows you to kind of gain practical experience, right? So if anything else, you will gain that experience and you will be able to kind of add it to your resume, right? If you look at your resume right now and you take advantage of these extracurricular activities between now and let's say 2 or 3 years from now, your resume will look totally different. It will be like night and day. Trust me, you should do it. That could be a kind of a litmus test in terms of what your resume looks like now. If you don't have a resume, I encourage you to start creating a resume. But again, if you're let's say a freshman or a sophomore right now, and by the time you graduate as a senior in high school, that resume can look totally different if you engage in extracurricular activities. And then, finally, with this valuable experience, it allows you to kind of have a sense of purpose and direction as well. All right. So this is a quote from the Office of Admissions at Princeton University. Let me just kind of read it here. We don't value one type of activity over another. Rather, we appreciate sustained commitment to the interest you have chosen to pursue, right? Key words in that quote: sustained commitment. And I'll talk about kind of maybe thinking about kind of a timeline on these extracurricular activities. But I don't recommend having activities for the sake of having them, right? Because if you do, you're not going to do it long term. You won't be able to demonstrate commitment. If you do it just to do it, you'll drop it quickly. It will be quick. You'll have it for a month or 2 months. So pursue an activity, right, that you see yourself kind of belonging to for a significant kind of time period, all right? Just wanted to share that quote with you before I move on. It's just not me saying it. I want you to kind of also understand that these colleges and universities are saying it as well. So what are these extracurricular activities, right? EAs, we'll start using EAs, should really kind of depict your personality, right? A student's personality and interests. So extracurricular activities, they may include student clubs at your school. It may be, participating on, your sports team at your school. could be volunteering, right? Community service. I talked about the importance of those and how admissions committees really love that. It could be if you play a musical instrument, don't just play it, be a part of something as well. Or it could just be about anything that you do outside of school, outside of the classroom. So EAs are not just something you add to your resume, as I said, to look good for the admissions committee, though that's helpful. They are really intended to kind of demonstrate your passion, right? Your interest beyond your academics. So EAs will kind of really allow you to develop a specialty in a particular area of functionality, right? Or kind of industry. For example, if you, let's say you have an interest and you want to study business management in school, right? You want that to be your major. Yes, you could take relevant courses in high school, like economics or finance or accounting. But to truly be able to apply, right, what you're learning in those classes I just listed off to a practical experience like an extracurricular activity or the business club at your school, being able to have that application of the learning to a practical experience will give you a different level of learning, trust me. You will see kind of the acquired kind of skills and learning that you have gotten from the classroom and be able to kind of put them into action, right? That's when the higher level of learning really starts to happen, right? Because you'll say, oh, I get it now. That economics class or that accounting class or that finance class, yes, I learned a lot about kind of the theory. I went through the steps of it. But then to be able to kind of translate that learning into a practical experience, the light bulb will go on, right? The light bulb will go on and you'll become what? More engaged kind of in the class, right? More engaged in the class because you are seeing kind of what you're learning in action, right? And then EAs can also kind of gain and build credibility, right? In a chosen academic major. So sometimes you may not be able to pursue your interests and passions through academic coursework, through your courses in high school, because not every high school may not offer these courses I just mentioned, right, that you're interested in learning more about. But extracurricular activities, EAs can kind of offset, right, the coursework, the relevant coursework, right? So you can leverage the EA to kind of demonstrate that engagement. Yes, I want to study business in college, but my high school doesn't have any relevant courses. So I'm going to use my extracurricular activity because I, the student, has authority on what I want to do. I can make it relevant to business, right? So when you submit your application, right, you'll see the activities. Oh, you know, Jason didn't take any business courses, but wants to study business in college. Let's look at his activity list. Business student club, started his own business, entrepreneurship, right? So the admissions committee sees that part of his story, his narrative through his extracurricular activities versus the academic coursework. And then lastly, EAs can give you a glimpse into what you may want to pursue, right, as a profession. I know you have a lot of time. I know you're, still in high school, but it's good to kind of think beyond, right? It's good to kind of think kind of in the future as well. So, I know you have time to kind of figure out those career aspirations, but extracurricular activities really can be telling, right? So for an example, if you have an interest in being an orthopedic surgeon, right? Where they kind of specialize in joints and bones, right? And through your extracurricular activity, you have this great opportunity to kind of participate in a rotation program at a hospital. And you go through the different rotation and you're going through and you're learning about what it entails to be an orthopedic surgeon. And you go through that rotation and you realize this isn't for me. This is too exhausting. I don't want to learn. I don't want to be an orthopedic surgeon, right? But going through the rotation program, you come to find out what it entails to be a pediatric, right, surgeon, right? And you know what? It piqued your interest, right? Now you have validation for yourself on maybe what you want to do, but also maybe what you don't want to do as well. So again, EAs can be very telling as well. So that's why it's important, because it will illuminate for you on some of the things that you want to do, but also maybe some of the things that you think you want to do, but you actually do it through your EA, right? And you said, nope, that's not for me, which is totally fine. You rather do experiment now, right? Versus, being in the profession and then realize I want to switch. You can do it, but again, doing it early allows you a lot more kind of information and clarity, all right? So when admissions committees are kind of evaluating your extracurricular activities, they are not only looking at what you're doing, but they're also looking at how it relates to other things as well, including leadership, right? Including sustained commitment, right? I read the quote from Princeton. It also demonstrates initiative as well. It also shows that it's a good fit, right, for you, the student, but also the school itself as well. Again, everyone is unique, has its own kind of skill set, so they want to make sure it's a good fit for both kind of parties involved, all right? So leadership. Leadership is arguably the most used buzzword in college admissions. And you see kind of a definition of leadership taken from, this is McKinsey, a consulting firm, very high level, very kind of professional when you kind of read what leadership is, right? I believe leadership, not only this here, McKinsey, what they say, but really leadership for me is the ability to, or the ability of an individual or a group of people that influences and guides other members of the organization, right? That's a very kind of basic leadership, right? Especially for younger people that are in high school. So for you, the student, it's the ability to kind of take those steps to kind of lead your fellow students, your classmates, your peers, and serve as a role model to create something that has the potential to be left behind, right, for others to take advantage of, right? Leaving that legacy. So how can you kind of find leadership opportunities? Many times you can kind of create your own leadership opportunities, right? So don't just limit yourself to the idea that leadership is solely defined on being the captain of the softball team, right? Or president of the student club or organization, or the treasury of a certain initiative. You can brainstorm ways to create your own kind of leadership role, right? Like, is there an event coming up at your school that needs someone to plan it, right? Is there a need kind of in your neighborhood, in your school or in your town that needs addressing, right? Let me share a quick kind of example with you. I worked with a student and she had a disease where she had brittle bones, right? So there were days where she needed to use a wheelchair to get to school. The school at the time didn't have an accessible kind of way for her to get into school, right? Because she was using a wheelchair. She took the initiative to say, you know what, I need to fill this void. right? Because not only for myself, right, in terms of building a ramp for her to get into school, but when she spoke with leaders from the school to kind of build this ramp for her to get into, have it accessible, she now leaves a legacy behind for other students that are maybe not able, right, to go up the steps into school, for them to use the ramp. That's part of leadership as well. That's raising your hand and saying, there's a void that I want to fill, right? That shows so much. And guaranteed, she said that, she communicated that kind of in her application. So be creative when you think about leadership as well, all right? Long-term commitment. Again, schools are looking for your EAs for evidence of commitment and consistency over time. Schools will be kind of much more impressed if you devote 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week to a cause for a year or two than if you spend 40 hours over a project over the course of just 1 week, right? The consistency over 2 to 3 years, right? Showing that commitment, showing that maintained involvement in a couple of extracurricular activities for at least 2 or more years, that shows dedication, right? That shows that you can demonstrate and you are able to stick to something over a period of time. That shows what the Princeton Office of Admissions was speaking to, right? And the evolution happens when you commit more time to your EA, right? So the more likely that your interest, right, through your EA over time, that interest potentially can grow into your passion. And when you're doing something in your passion, it doesn't seem like work. It seems like this is something that you enjoy, right? And at the end of the day, schools are looking to attract students who openly embrace, right, challenges and can demonstrate that personal evolution, that personal growth and impact through extracurricular activities over time. So initiative I spoke about as well. Colleges, they love to see that you have the initiative and you can think outside the box, right? So is there an activity that you're thinking about that you would love to engage, but it's not offered at your school, right, as an option? If yes, then take action, right? Do something about it, right? Some high schools, they have a formal process that you need to go through to start a new club, right? Start a new initiative, right? Engage in a new project. But some don't, right? Some don't give you that option, right? But don't let that stop you from further researching the opportunity, right? Schedule meetings with teachers, schedule meetings with your high school administrators, right? Ask questions. I'm interested in starting this club, right? Because this process is not always straightforward. It's not always linear, right? But if you are able to start a student club on your own in high school, trust me, admissions committees love that, right? That you started something kind of on your own, right? So taking the initiative, being proactive, and creating something on your own is very telling to admissions committees. And then kind of lastly, fit. Extracurricular activities will allow admissions committees to evaluate potentially maybe what major you might be interested in. But it also, more importantly, gives you, the student, right, more clarity on maybe what major that you're interested in. And then that kind of, bleeds into maybe that major then turning into a professional goal of yours, right? Your extracurricular activities can show in terms of fit. Why does the student want to attend our school? I mentioned earlier about kind of those supplemental essays that revolves around the why you fill in the blank university, right? Your why could be based on my EA, my extracurricular activity. I see that you have a similar activity that's an option for me at that specific school, and then you can talk about that connection there in your supplemental essay. And then also schools want to make sure that this relationship is a good fit for both their school and also the student as well. And different schools have different cultures, right? So you just want to make sure that this is a good fit for you. This is the time, students, if you're listening to me, where you should be selfish, right? I know your parents say don't be selfish, but this is the time to do it. You want to make sure that the school that you're looking to apply to has everything that, or as much as everything that you want as a student, so you can reach some of your career goals. All right. Okay, so extracurricular activities also help you develop your kind of interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills are kind of a combination of your people skills, your social skills, your communication skills. It's things that allow you to be a great student outside of your technical skills. So some students have these kind of interpersonal skills naturally, right? It comes naturally to them. And some students need to develop them over time, which is totally fine, right? But admissions committees think highly of these soft skills. They are not tangible, right? They're not tangible parts of the application all the time, or something that can be kind of easily identified in the application, but it's just as important as some of the other components in the application that you saw on the wheel a little bit earlier. Now, yes, admissions committees want to admit students who are smart, right? Based on their academic credentials, but they also want students who are likable, right? They want students who are willing and able and will thrive in a collaborative environment through student clubs and organizations. They will show activism on the college campus through organizing different campus events, right? You are going to be part of their kind of ethos, right? In terms of being part of that college campus, right? Because they want to market you. You're going to be there for 4 years. You're going to go out in the world and do great things. And that school says, Jason is doing great things. He attended X university, right? So it's important to kind of show that those soft skills as well. How do you develop these soft skills? Like everything else, it's in life, it's through what? Practice. And it's one way to gain practice is through your extracurricular activities as well. So you'll see collaboration and kind of teamwork, kind of learning to kind of trust others and work together and give feedback to others, but also just as importantly, receive feedback. You'll see critical thinking, right? That's kind of the ability to kind of evaluate and analyze something and use that analysis to determine an outcome, right? You'll see problem solving there. And this is kind of the process of identifying and prioritizing and implementing options for solutions. And then creativity, the ability to kind of recognize ideas that can be useful in solving problems, right? So are you noticing a trend here, right? The ability to offer solutions to problems. It's what really people with years and decades of experience face on a day-to-day, kind of in their jobs, in their professions. So if you, the student, can kind of begin working on these skills now, you will be put at a considerable advantage, not just going through the college application, but as a college student and years beyond as well, right? So your preparation will be very noticeable if you could start kind of doing these things right now as a student. All right, so how to get started. Countless ways to kind of get started in EAs where you can make a difference outside of the classroom, whether it's through many of the things that I kind of spoke about. Let me see if I have a list here. I do. So these are some of the areas that you can kind of think about as you think about, one, your interests, how you can engage these extra activities as well. And, some could be through the power of technology, right? So, we have access to, YouTube, right? You could start your own YouTube channel where over time you can gain significant kind of followers. You could start a blog, right? Or a podcast that you can kind of speak about some of your interests, some of your passions as well, right? And everyone has a podcast these days. Why not you, right? And with the power of technology, you could reach not just in your neighborhood, an audience, not just within your state or province. You could reach around the globe as well. I mentioned kind of entrepreneurship. You could do that at a young age, right? Starting your own business, right? Using the power of your network. Maybe your network now just consists of, a family and your friends. So use that network, right? Use your mom and dad and uncle and aunt to maybe start a business that you are have a passion for as well. And then there's more traditional ones where you can be the president of a student club. But again, president is not only leadership, right? There's other ways to kind of show leadership. But engaging in student clubs and organizations, I believe, is important. Doing a research project at your school. And a research project doesn't always have to come and the teacher is telling you you have to submit a research project. You could do this in an independent research project. Again, admissions committees like to see what? The initiative that I spoke about earlier of you starting and doing a research project on your own. If there's any writers kind of in the audience, right? Maybe you'll kind of, write for your school newspaper, getting published in a local journal or your neighborhood or community newspaper about something that kind of you're passionate about. Creating a nonprofit organization that impacts kind of your community, right? If you play an instrument, again, I shared this earlier, is, just don't keep that talent to yourself, right? Maybe you can kind of, use a platform where you can showcase kind of your talent, right? And then the importance of giving back, right? I love the bass guitar. If you're good at playing the bass guitar, teach others, right? Go to the local community center, go to the local Boys and Girls Club, and one Saturday a month, teach people that want to learn the bass guitar as well. I might sign up as well, right? That's taking the initiative and kind of giving back to your talents as well. So let me kind of emphasize this here. Look beyond your classroom in your school for extracurricular activities, right? Think of ways that you can have a positive impact on your community, right? Think about ways that you can kind of share your talents with your community as well, and how they can be your community that is to be better positioned to kind of to serve, right? So take action if there's something that needs addressing that you feel is important to you, right? So it doesn't have to come from a traditional way of getting involved in extracurricular activities. All right, so I'm going to do a timeline here. This is kind of a basic timeline. So like grades 7 to 9, this is the exploration. This is where you should be exploring activities that you think you might enjoy, right? Think you might enjoy. And you could do 5, 6, 7 different activities. Test them out. See if there's any kind of interest there for you. And then I would say in grades 10 and 11, let's narrow down the activity list. Because I mentioned earlier, for me, you don't want 20 activities and you only engaged, a couple of hours a school year in it. I would narrow it down to 2 or 3 interests, right? for the 10th and 11th year, engage those, and then if possible, either 11th or 12th grade, pursue a leadership role in that, if you are able, right? If you are able, pursue a leadership role. So that's kind of a timeline that you can kind of consider. This is not, you don't have to follow it to the T, but just kind of keep that in the back of your mind in terms of the timeline on engaging different extracurricular activities. All right, so I want to kind of pivot quickly. We're getting close to time here. So I want to share with you a student that I worked with a few years back. She attended high school here in Maryland, here in the US, and she's currently a sophomore at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And we were kind of discussing, again, the importance of extracurricular activities, and she was academically, she was strong, right? But as we saw some of the data, that doesn't mean admission, right? You have to have other things in your application. So this is kind of one of her activities. I think she had 3 or 4 activities while in high school. So you saw the timeline. So grade 9, she explored of all of the activities that was available at her high school. And she said because she was good at math, she said, well, we discussed the importance of, okay, if you're good at math, is there a way through the clubs and organizations at your high school to share that? So they had a student tutor program at her high school where she tutored students in math, right? And as she did that kind of in 10th grade, in the 11th and 12th, she continued it, but she gained a leadership role within the student tutor program. So she was the co-director of the curriculum division, where she would teach other tutors how to tutor, right? So those were 2 kind of experiences through 10th grade, where she was a member of the student tutor program. And then 11th and 12th grade, she took on this leadership role where she was now teaching others how to tutor and creating a curriculum that they could follow to be able to kind of tutor the students that they were tutoring, right? So now, right, I mentioned earlier, leaving the legacy, she has left the legacy in terms of this curriculum that now today students are following because she was a part of that. Now, how does this translate into college? So University of Pennsylvania, they have what they call the West Philadelphia Tutoring Project. Aha, okay. So when she filled out her application and she did the research and due diligence on UPenn and came across the West Philadelphia Tutoring Project, she found there's the connection, there's the fit through an extracurricular activity. And she joined the West Philadelphia Tutoring Project as a member. So she's going out into the community. Remember the importance of giving back through community service. She's going out to the communities that surrounds University of Pennsylvania to tutor middle school students and high school students in that area. Now, that's freshman year. She went up to sophomore year this year. Now she's on the board of the Philadelphia Tutoring Project. And board, right, now she's making decisions, right, with 5 other students, I believe she shared with me, that are on this board, right? And this is a big deal, right? So again, when I spoke about resume and how it can look night and day between where it is now, where it could be, in 2 or 3 years, now she has this great experience on her resume of being a board member of the West Philadelphia Tutoring Project. So there's the connection. There's the kind of growth and development of the extracurricular activity starting in 10th grade and really starting in 9th grade where she explored and then focused in 10th grade this is the one of the extracurricular activities that I want to pursue. as a student tutor. And that grew into actually being a board member as a tutoring program project at her university, okay? So, if you ask her, what experience did you learn from all of this? Leadership, right? She had the experience managing other student tutors, right? As being kind of a co-curriculum division creator. She had adaptability where she can communicate with diverse population of students. She gained time management skills, right? Setting deadlines, balancing schoolwork with all the other things that she was doing. She was able to kind of further develop her presentation skills. She didn't like to present, right? She had a lot of nervous energy and anxiety around that. But through what? Practice, each year she had to give an orientation and overview to new student or tutors. Not saying she's 100% comfortable, but through practice, her presentation skills are much better because it's gone through her EAs. So I asked her kind of, how did you kind of use this in your college application, right? So the essay, right? She was able to kind of, through the supplemental essays, kind of connect that to, her student tutoring at her high school to her college, right? She used that as one of her supplemental essays. Obviously, she added that to her activity list in the application, where it demonstrated leadership and a commitment to kind of serve others. Important. It also kind of, helped her kind of at least engage her major, right? So she has a passion for education, and that led her to her major in economics, because when researching Penn, there was, I think it's an education for economics type of course, which she'll be taking next year. But that was, that kind of fit in terms of academic coursework and showing clarity on her major. And then, lastly, it became part of her narrative, her story, right? Of help. She's willing to and offering to help others through the perspective, through the lens of education. All right. So that was her story. So that was kind of an example that I can share with you in terms of an EA kind of growing over time, 4 years in high school, and then now 2 years in college. I'm about to end here, but I want to kind of leave you here with this, right? Nurture your curiosity now. Experience less stress later, right? So this is the time to kind of engage the things that you want to pursue or potentially pursue. So be curious, ask questions. If someone says no, right, we can't do it, think about creative ways to kind of continue to make it happen for yourself, right? And don't let anyone kind of stop you from being curious and being creative, all right? So I'm gonna stop there. Again, thank you for allowing me to engage you with hopefully a little more illumination on extra curricular activities. Hopefully it was educational kind of for you. If we have time for Q&A, we can do that.
Great, thank you so much. That was wonderful information shared. Before going through Q&A, just let me quickly, since Jason tonight talked about a lot of the EA, right, activities. So I am going to just kind of quickly to go through IvyCompass. We have a multiple background improvement project and resources, okay? So number one, we have a great summer camp, including social impact, including different kind of type of communication, leadership, entrepreneurship. And so that's through our sister agency, WizWise. So, we are hosting this kind of type of resource to give people, other soft skill, leadership skill, communication skill, curiosity. We also have a wonderful, which is many students go through that. We have a wonderful economic, also business background coach on our team. He is professional. He leading the team, winning UPenn investment competition. We are #1 team, and he also leading a team for Diamond Challenging. So we have a multiple team in the past 2 years going to top 50, top 50 those team, winning awards. So we have a wonderful resource on that on the business side. We also have a resource for the combination of like a nonprofit organization with the United Nations, entrepreneurship, and also have an ability attending those, like Chinese like 联合国峰会啊，人道会议编会啊. So we also have those kind of resources for volunteerism opportunity. We also have a background improvement activity outside of extracurricular for STEM student, which is we have a 考科创。上期像我刚刚说的 I'm going to use some Chinese, okay? Because Allison had a leading presentation for those 科研项目啊、科创项目啊 for those STEM student to study like computer 计算机人工智能的布局啊，指导学生利用人工智能解决社会问题。等等等等，所以 for any kind of interest, any kind of background, we all have related resource to provide this kind of opportunity to enhance your competitiveness. Okay, so before going Q&A, again, if you would like to have a conversation, one-on-one, mini consultation like with Jason personally for 30 minutes, you're welcome to scan the barcode on the right-hand side. That way you fill quick form with the basic information. Our team, IvyCompass team, will follow up with you to schedule a meeting to have that opportunity to understanding Jason more. Okay, he is obviously ton of experience, have a lot of success story in the past. So you're welcome to scan the barcode on the right-hand side, and somebody will follow with you to schedule that meeting for you. Okay, and also if you are not ready, if you just wanted to continue, stay put to understanding more resources from IvyCompass, you can scan the barcode on the left-hand side. That way we can invite you into our WeChat group, and then you can continue to receive information about wonderful presentation like tonight, okay? So I'm gonna leave this here. Now I see some of the questions. Like I said, you also have opportunity to raise your hand, and then I'm gonna give you the opportunity to connect the mic, because I'm not able to, there's a lot of questions, a lot of good questions. I'm not able to go through one by one, but I'm going to choose couple, okay? I'm going to choose couple I think maybe representing information will shared by, many families, then I will go through. And by the way, Jason, you received a lot of positive comments. We had a 40, almost like one time 483 audience in the circle listening to your wonderful sharing. So let me see, okay? Some of the questions you already answered. Let me go through this, okay? My daughter is in 11th grade, has been participating in math competition and math team at school since 7th grade. But since he started to like medical field more, so she did biological research internship last summer and plan to do the same this summer too. In this case, how should we choose her interest when applying for colleges, math or biology?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I like the diversity of having both, right? Math, but so a lot of students are good in math, and they're part of the math club, and they take, participate in math competitions. So I would, if that's where the interest in terms of medical is where it lies, I would continue the journey in terms of exploring the medical side of it, right? Because in terms of separating yourself from all those students that are strong in math and engage in the math competition, that's one way to do it, right? In terms of going the medical route. So I would kind of push forward in terms of the medical route in terms of the narrative. Though they'll see that the admissions committee that they're good in math, which is going to be a plus as well. But let your student follow their interest and potential passion in medicine.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Okay, next question. The boarding school usually do not support out-of-town travel for students to attend regional, state, or national competitions? How do Harvard AOs evaluate non-campus only extracurricular activity without many regional, state, or national rewards?
So the awards are fine. They're good, but it's not just, putting yourself in position to get an award. It's the process of getting there. So again, as I mentioned earlier, if you are not able to leave campus to engage in those competitions, what other creative ways can you participate, or participate in a competition where might just be solely based on the school campus, right, within the walls of the boarding school? Or is there an opportunity to do something in terms of a competitiveness through an online platform, right? So again, as I mentioned earlier, don't let barriers stop you initially if they're not initially offered. Think about creative ways that you can kind of engage that competition outside of the more traditional forms. And also, just lastly, these top colleges and universities, they understand kind of the barriers that these boarding schools have, right? So it's not going to be something that's new to them. These are very seasoned individuals that kind of understand the high school landscape very well.
Excellent. That's one of the advantage engage someone like Jason, right? Because if you have a coach, then coach can be put like many experience head together to think about solution or creative way to help your child to break through maybe some physical barrier you have. And there's also a very good question. Many parents always asking us like, my child study in West Coast, where Jason's located. If Jason located in the East Coast, then is Jason understanding my school? Or maybe Jason doesn't understand international school in China. Let me assure you, all these people like Jason indicating the AOs, they are so experienced. Doesn't matter what school, doesn't matter where you're coming from, any corner of the universe, globally, they all will be quickly understanding what your school like and what kind of type of advantage or kind of type of resource, right? So you don't have to worry about that. Some family are worried about that. You don't need to.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, that's a great point. So these colleges, they have regional admissions officers, right? So they have admissions officers that solely work in the Los Angeles area, solely work in China, solely work in India, solely work in the southeast of the United States. So they are familiar, right, with the high schools in that area as well.
Correct. Yeah. Thank you for adding that on. And also I want to emphasize, you can hire a consultant if they are experienced understanding this kind of, like so-called game or system methodology. They will understand your school very quickly. So don't worry about that. Okay. Next question is asking, do you have any advice on how to conduct school research to determine the best cultural fit? Information from school website seem to be very generic and not superficial.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I would first say if you are able to visit the school, that's number one. But if you are not able to visit, the best population of individual where you can get the authentic view of the school is the student themselves, right? So sometimes admissions officers, we fluff up, we talk about the great things that Harvard has, the great things that George Washington University has. But the student perspective is the one that's going to give you the authentic experience. So on the websites of these colleges, many of them will offer a informational session, but it also includes a student perspective. So that's one way to kind of, engage kind of the, the more kind of generic information that you'll find on the website. And if you are able, like as a student, I would have the student kind of reach out to a current student at that university or college and then engage kind of a conversation with them. So I would start there. And that's a great question because you want to go beyond kind of what they're selling you, right? Remember, it could be transactional. So they're trying to sell you the great resources and opportunities that you'll have at X university. but get that student perspective if you are able to, and if you're not able to actually physically be on campus.
Okay, next question is related to your background. How many EAs in the committee, and do EA have all degree to a med student? I am curious about how the process works. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, how many EAs?
Like they're asking how many EAs usually in the community, and is all EA have an equal authority of degree, same degree admitting student? They're just curious about how process works behind the scene of Harvard.
So how many people on the admissions
EA,
committee?
yes, how many EAs in the community?
So it depends, right? So when I was there, we had 18 people on the admissions committee, and it comprised of senior administrators and faculty, right? Professors that were on the admissions committee. And the majority had been at that academic institution at Harvard for at least 5 years, right? So they understood kind of what we are looking for. They understood the rigor of the academics. They understood the student clubs and organizations that Harvard offered as well. And that diversity of perspective, like I mentioned earlier, is very important, right? You don't want everyone on the admissions committee to be an administrator or to be a professor, right? You want that diversity of kind of perspective. So it ranges in terms of admissions committee, in terms of the number.
Okay, thank you. The next parent's asking, how much is sibling legacy as a factor in admission?
So
as brother,
legacy,
sister studying.
Yeah, great question. So legacy can be important, right? I think I read something about a couple of weeks ago where Yale, their statistics broke down, Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut, a good percentage of their EA, right, their early decision were from legacy, right? So legacy can play a role in admission. So that's where, if you're looking to kind of take advantage of that legacy, and if that school offers ED, right, early decision, strategically, I would apply ED to that school. If that school is your number one and you have a legacy component. So it does play a role for some schools.
Okay, thank you. This question is really good from Phillips. Actually, each year, numerous students find paid counselor, like what we're doing now, to add a whole application process. Would this jeopardize equality of the admission review process? It seems that universities have known the fact, but they pretend they are not knowing. Okay, I won't say the last sentence. So is that affecting the admission process since students hire a coach consultant like, what we're doing now?
Yeah.
Jeopardize the process?
No, it won't jeopardize the process. And I've mentioned it many a times over the presentation, is being authentic, right? And making sure the student's voice is shown through each of the components, right? So me as a consultant, I'm working with the student over time. I'm getting to know the student. But at the end of the day, it's the student's application. It's not my application. I already went to college, right? So the essay, letters of recommendation, your activity list is solely based on the student. My job is to give advice and recommendations based on my experience around strategy, what makes the most sense, what you should highlight, what you should underscore versus not. But at the end of the day, it's the student's voice in the application.
Right. Thank you for that answer. I also have to say, throughout our career, you go through school because somebody coaching you to learn the knowledge. You go through a job, somebody may coach you for resume writing. Somebody even company like Boeing, Pfizer, Merck, all this big company hire consultation company organization to help them become a better. So don't tell me without help or with the help, make that person last, because if I'm seeking for professional mentorship, we all do. Myself receive many mentorship, paid or unpaid. I'm paying somebody to coach me. I'm paying somebody to go through a lesson like tonight. Like I'm 60 now. I'm still taking lessons, learning professional skills. So don't tell me if I'm paying somebody, make me less quality. I'm sorry to tell you. In this society, everybody is eligible and also have the ability to pay somebody if you think that person is qualified enough to make yourself better. So I think it's very fair, because everybody should have that opportunity if you can allocating enough financial resource to it. So I don't think it's unfair. I think, there's many things unfair, but that's one thing. I think if you have the resource, you should give yourself and give your child a advantage of learning somebody, knowing the business and knowing how to spend your time. It's about how do you spend time, and then where you almost like in Chinese, like 你不打无准备之仗. Almost like, every fight, every war, you got to have a strategy. If you don't have a strategy, you almost put your child in a disadvantage. So, okay, that's just clear opinion. You might not like it, but that's just the way it is. I wanted to make it more direct. Okay. Next question. How would achievement in art helping student who's applying for biology major if the kids have a art
So they
talent?
have their extracurricular activities, they have art, but want to pursue biology?
Correct.
Yeah, so one way, so especially for biology, it's a very kind of technical field. So their admissions committee is going to be looking for those science classes, right, in one's transcript. And if they're looking at a high-level college or university, it's not just having the science, but having science classes where you've taken them, if offered at the student's high school at a high level, whether it's an IB science course, right, whether it's an AP science course. But just because they have art right now doesn't mean they can't have an EA, right? I was talking about the rotational program. Doesn't mean they can't engage kind of in that kind of field as well. You could do more than just one EA, as I mentioned, right? So you can have art and you can have, right, medicine. And again, that diversity of interest, I like that, right? And college admissions like to see that diversity of interest as well, right? This person has a background in art. That's pretty cool, but also they are interested in medicine and they've taken the number of science classes. I mentioned earlier about the holistic approach, being the whole applicant. That's going to show well as well. So don't just say, stop the art or, don't pursue the medicine. Do both if you are able to.
Thank you. Right now it's about 10:41. I think for the parents are raising hand. I appreciate you waiting, and thank you very much for the patience. I'm going to answer maybe, just one question. So I'm going to leave 15 minutes for people to have a direct conversation with you, okay? The next question I also, kind of hear a lot is, hi, Jason, what are your thoughts about paying to play sort of a research program? There's a lot of company out there, which is we're also connecting them, providing some sort of resource for people and students to conduct research. Okay, so the question is asking, there's a lot of them out there paying a price and then, have access to those, wealthy family. I don't think it's had to be wealthy family. Some of them are very reasonable, $3,000, $4,000 for students to have opportunity to conduct research. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so pay to play. So again, I think you kind of mentioned it earlier, Sophia, if you have the resources to do a research program at a university, I would recommend doing it if you are able to, right? Because how admissions committees will look at it is that student for 6 weeks in the summer engaged in a research project that really aligned to his interests and goals. That's what we would look at. We would understand that students, it costs $2,000 or $3,000 to do it. But if you don't do it, and Johnny and Julie do it, you will be at a disadvantage unless you did something to substitute, not, that time over the summer where you can, find something that's, outside of kind of the, these summer programs that these universities kind of host on their campus. But if you don't, and you're sitting idle while other students are doing this research project, you'd be at a disadvantage when you submit your application.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I already opened mic for Bruce. Bruce, you able to have a conversation and ask question. Just one question, please. So there's many other family able to have that chance. Thank you.
Okay, Jason, I have a question. My daughter is equally good at fine arts as well as economics. Her dream would be like a business administration in art business. She wants to do the double major in Harvard, for example. But I heard that if she apply for Harvard, it will be easier for her to get in by fine art major than by economics major. I mean, I'm confused by the application major and eventually the declared major 2 years later. Which one is easier to go, fine art or economics?
Well, so if you look at kind of there's going to be more students that are looking to, and it depends on university. There'll be more students that are looking to pursue economics as a major than than students that are looking to apply for an art major at Harvard, right? So just in terms of like demand, you'll have more demand for the economics major. So it's more competitive, more applications are, people are saying, I want to pursue economics. Less applications in terms of the art, right? So strategy-wise, if your daughter's interested in both econ and art, I would, in terms of the narrative of the application, focusing on the art piece.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can do supplement, use art as a supplement as well, right?
Yeah.
Kind of combination strength.
Yeah. Don't just leave yourself to just, there's not one avenue and that's it, right? There's multiple ways to communicate your interests, not just through the application, but also kind of your background and interests. And that shows that diversity that I spoke about earlier.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Nina, I know Nina Gao, you raised your hand for a long time. So thank you for your patience. Now you can open your mic. Nina.
Yes, thank you very much. I wanted to ask the question about the competitiveness of major in environmental science. It seems to be a new field, but not every school has it. So I wonder, Jason can make comments about looking at, environmental science, environmental study. Some are in engineering schools, some are in arts and sciences. Could you share some information? Thank you.
So yes, the environmental science major over time has become pretty popular. Though again, not every university will offer it. So one thing to consider is almost kind of walking backwards. Like how does your student want to leverage their degree? Basically, what do they want to do with that degree? And then kind of walking backwards to make sure that this environmental science major is, one, the appropriate major, two, what school it's coming from, right? The engineering school is going to be a lot more technical in that regard versus kind of a liberal arts and sciences type of school within the university. So, I think it's important. What grade is your student in?
Right now, 11th grade.
11th grade.
So he was thinking the combination of environmental science and business. I guess the ultimate goal is perhaps to develop products, device, to sort of improve the sustainability. I think that's the thoughts right now.
Yeah. So there's two avenues, right? You could do a double major, you could do a major and a minor, or you could do a major in one of the areas, whether it's business or environmental science. So business is a generalist type of degree. You're going to have a lot of students that are kind of looking to kind of raise their hands to business. And as I mentioned earlier, in terms of being strategic around it, though environmental science is a very kind of, relatively speaking, over time, it has a lot of interest in it. I think you'll get less applications in environmental science than you'll get in business. So if your student wants to do something entrepreneurship wise, or at least have exposure to business and kind of connect that to more of a technical environmental science degree, I would do the environmental science kind of major. But remember, I talked about fit. Not every school has it. And you don't just look at, so environmental science at Harvard or Princeton might not be good in terms of major compared to an environmental science major in another university, because that's what they're good at. That's what they're known for. So this is where, especially now, kind of in 11th grade, you have to do your research and make sure that fit is there, right? I spoke about being selfish. So you just need to make sure, looking at the courses through the environmental science major, that you feel will be beneficial. That's what I asked about his goals, to the goals after they complete their degree. So it's kind of a very kind of specific journey that your student has in terms of which major to choose and whether to have a minor in business. Or a lot of these majors allow for some electives within the major, right? You can maybe take a course in finance or accounting or economics, or even sustainability management, right? Sustainability is a big buzzword as well, and just have the environmental science major. I hope that kind of answered your question, at least illuminated a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Next one, Sandra.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Sophia and Jason, for hosting such a informative seminar. I really appreciate it. So my question is, I have a daughter. She is interested in music and STEM science. So she wanted to spend the summer for whole months long music festival, but she also have opportunity to other like summer pre-college program and volunteering opportunities, but she wanted to do the music festival. Is this kind of waste of her time? And what's your thoughts on spend the time during the summer?
Yeah, so I mean, some of it depends on where she is in high school, right? What grade?
She's grade 10.
She's a rising 10th grader, or just finishing? She's
rising junior. Rising
junior. So this summer she wants to do the music festival.
Yeah.
So what does the music festival entail?
It's a chamber music. She plays a violin instrument.
Okay. And she's also interested in, STEM as well?
Yes, yes.
Does she have any activities related to something in STEM?
STEM, yeah. Schools, Olympia, like those activities.
Okay. So here's where you can kind of think about separating, right, yourself from these competitive, application pools for these universities. I would ask myself, how many students do you feel that have experience doing chamber music?
Oh yeah, she's doing chamber music for the festival.
Doing that, but I'm saying, how many other students do you feel will have, or do you think will have that experience doing chamber music?
I think for people who intended to be music majors, but she does not want to be just music major. She wants science part too.
Yeah. Okay. So my thing is, so she has 2 summers right before she actually submits an application. So conceptually, you could do the chamber music, right, for this summer. But in terms of the STEM, right? STEM, they like to see the academic coursework. So if she has STEM courses on her transcript, then I would recommend you could do the chamber music. And again, that adds diversity of application and also kind of interest. If she doesn't have any STEM kind of coursework, then I would say if you could do both the STEM and the chamber music over the summer, or maybe gravitate to just the STEM. You need to showcase some STEM experience if you're looking to do that and pursue that in college.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah. And also, Sandra, just to let you know, I just mentioned our team, we have a Li Longfei, just Jason, you know, we have a wonderful, wonderful music portfolio coach. He's very good. He's helping our multiple students to produce a portfolio combined with the STEM and have very good result.
Wow, there it is. Very good.
Thank you.
So you can, Sandra, you can connecting, you know, me or Ellison, we will be helping you connecting with that faculty. You know, he's very, very sharp. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sandra. Yeah. Jenny?
Hi, thank you for taking my call. Jason, quick question. So lots of parents are asking about the schools. I want to change angle to ask a program. For example, Harvard government versus Georgetown public policy. What do you suggest if the kids are interested in public policy, foreign, you know, policy, like political science?
And what school would be most suitable for that,
the program? Yes.
Yeah, so for public policy, to me, there's some great schools that are not located in Washington, D.C., like Harvard, Princeton have two great public policy programs. Actually, you probably wouldn't think of it, but Syracuse University has a great public policy program as well. But when you think about public policy, to me, there's, you know, to kind of learn about policy in the nation's capital, like a Georgetown University, is something can be kind of compare the two, because you have a lot, especially like foreign affairs, right? They have a lot of access to a lot of kind of organizations right here in their neighborhood, right? In the Georgetown's neighborhood, like the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. And you have obviously the federal government, but there's a lot of NGOs and nonprofits. So, you know, if you apply to Harvard and Georgetown and Princeton, there's no wrong answer in terms of policy work, right? In terms of government work that your student is seeking. So I think you'll get tremendous traction professionally from all three of those schools. I'm just naming those three schools. I would say like a Harvard and a Princeton, having that connection will take you, you know, pretty far as well. But in terms of the realm of public policy, Georgetown is a great school in that, and they have a school of foreign affairs, if I'm not mistaken, right? You know, where you can kind of really engage not just the university, but also the location of Washington, D.C. And it's all about service. So your students should have a lot of public service kind of in their background if they haven't already, especially if they're looking to apply for, you know, a more policy degree, a government type of major.
Okay, thank you. Next one, please. Wen Yang Wei.
Oh, hi, Jason. Thank you for this presentation. It's wonderful. And now I have like quick two questions.
One question,
first
please.
Is that sorry, they're really relative. My sister, she's currently studying in a A-level high school. It's a British curriculum, so that she only able to choose 3 to 4 courses and as a high school course, so that she like I guess she won't be able to fulfill the requirement for the high school like course requirement thing. Would that, like, counting she is an international student, does that will take a disadvantage as her application? And also the second question, does she need to necessarily taking AP courses to fulfill this requirement?
So she'll only have 3 years of academic coursework and receive her diploma in the British system?
It's 4 years.
Okay, so what is she not getting? You mentioned that can only
3 to 4 courses, A-level courses, while she's taking math, further math, econ, and physics, and that'll be all. So I guess she won't be able to taking like history and stuff.
That's fine, right? Remember that if your high school doesn't offer, right, these high-level classes, then there's nothing the student can do. And as I mentioned earlier, there's a familiarity between all the admissions officers at the school and the high school curriculum at all these high schools across the globe, right? So if it's not available, that's totally fine. There are options where you could take an AP, course outside of the curriculum of the high school, but I wouldn't kind of worry about that too much. If it's not offered, it's not offered at her high school. She's taking advantage of what's being made available to her, and that's fine. So, it would be up to, it's like a decision that she would kind of need to make if you want to pursue and take an advanced placement course outside of the curriculum, but it's not a requirement based on what's, available in terms of the courses at her high school.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Jason, I know right now it's 11, which is we promised you to end the presentation, but I have like 6 parents who want to talk to you. Are you okay to stay a little bit longer?
Yeah, I can stay a little bit longer. Yes.
10 minutes. Okay, thank you. I am going, Xiaoling, you've been holding hand for a long time, so I'm going to let you go first. Xiaoling, please open your mic. All right, Xiaoling, if you're not there, then let me go to Fang Liu.
Hi, thank you. I have a question about AP. How the AO look at the AP score? Like if my daughter got like the A in the school for AP chemistry, however, the AP test she only got 3. So if we don't report the AP test score, so how the AO look at it? And also there are many places offer the AP class outside the school. If we take the like online AP class or other AP classes outside the school and get A, I just don't know how the AP look at AP score test.
So, one thing, admissions officers like to see that students are challenging themselves, academically. So having an AP course on their transcript is definitely advantageous. Earning an A in that is even better. Taking the test and earning a 3, not every school will use that as credit if they score less than a 5, right? So there are some universities, if you don't score a 5, I wouldn't recommend submitting the test score, and that's fine, right? They understand that not everyone's going to score a 5, but to me, more importantly, it's not just the one test that you take in getting the 5, it's the course over the semester or over the year where you earn the A. That's more beneficial than that one kind of AP test score in that regard. So if she got a 3, then just don't submit it, and that's fine. And it depends on what school you're applying to, right? Some of the top 10, 15 schools, maybe don't submit it. But if you're applying to like a mid-tier school, you can submit it based on that as well. So it kind of depends. And that's where, the advice of a counselor can be helpful in terms of strategizing on when to submit scores and when not to submit scores.
Exactly. It's almost like have a doctor on hand. When you have a, cough, or you have thought through, what to do kind of thing, have somebody like Jason to be on your side.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yang Wang.
Oh, hi. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you very much, Jason. I have a question about extracurricular activity. My daughter is 11th grader, and she is passionate about helping younger students about how to quit video games, developing good study habits. And she started from 2021 with outside school club to have workshop, which is a group lesson or presentation or one-on-one mentoring. So now she's going to start with the college application. So our thinking is instead of initiate another new one, we should continue go further on this one because this has been showing, right, the commitment for several years. So one thing we're thinking about is to have her previous interview with like Asperger ADHD parents video to make it, you know, like published on the podcast or website, or make it a script and publish on Amazon, something like that. What do you think?
Like it, love it, actually. So a couple of words you said that piqued my interest. This is her passion, right? Well, so you always want to follow her passion. 2 is, remember, you know, I mentioned kind of in the presentation, the give back, right? Based on
Yes.
talent, right? Serving others. So continue to do that and grow that, right? If you are able to. So I wouldn't, add another EA unless you feel it's beneficial to kind of her and aligns to her interests. Grow that over time, because right, that commitment, that sustainability over time is what admissions committees really like to see, and see if you can kind of get on that podcast, right, where you can reach out to more individuals and have that kind of following as well, or increase that following as well. So that's something that I truly enjoy. And not just the podcast. Again, if you can kind of go back to her neighborhood, right? Community service in terms of, Boys and Girls Club, doing some of that work, continue to do that work through that vacuum.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Yang. Okay, DH.
Hi, Jason, thank you for the wonderful seminar. So I was wondering for a student who would like to major in environmental area, who published a couple of papers, if we were to backtrack the extracurricular activities or the course, what kind of courses or ECs you would like to see or advise for the student?
So environmental, right? So what area of the environment is your student interested in, right? So that's one thing I would kind of ask, right? And then to see, once that's identified, to see if you can kind of gain a hands-on practical experience within that, right? So if it's sustainability, if it's around climate change, if it's around kind of pollution, think about kind of all the things that fall under environmental science and environment, and what area of that does your student have an interest in, and see if there's a research project, to see if there's a nonprofit organization that is doing great work in that field, right? I think you mentioned pollution. So why pollution, right? Is there a local kind of plant in your neighborhood that's polluting the area? Is there a river in your community that's polluted? Is there an opportunity to help kind of clean that up? Is there an opportunity to kind of advocate on not looting and littering in that river, right? So gain that practical experience through the environment, right? So focus in on a specific area of the environment and see if your student can kind of get hands-on experience within that.
Is there any high school courses that the kids should have that fits in the major? That if the student is not taking that course, the AOs will be sound suspicious to the AOs.
So I think there's a environmental science AP course, if I'm not mistaken, that's out there. That would be obviously helpful. But as I mentioned earlier, if there aren't those courses available, then the opportunity through your EAs is just as important, because then that will be part of your student's story. So, if there's no specific environmental science course that's available at the high school, alternatively, you have to do the EAs in that field.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you. The last person, okay, I'm not adding any more. So, because Jason needed time to, it's kind of getting late in the East Coast. Jung Liang, you're the last one. You've been holding hands, so I'm going to give that last opportunity to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. This question probably is kind of specific because my son is a neurodivergent learner. He has autism and ADHD, but he has been doing well in school. He's interested in sports, especially basketball. So currently he's in the sports team in school. But I wonder, in his case, his interest in math and science. So we haven't decided on the major. I wonder in his case, how does EO view people who's sort of similar, like on the spectrum, has learning differences?
Sure. Great question. So don't shy away from it in the application, right? Speak to it through your essays. Remember I talked about the uniqueness that every student has, right? That's your son's uniqueness, right? So he can bring a different perspective, a different experience to that college campus. So when you're looking at the Common App essay or the supplemental essays, underscore that, highlight, be proud of kind of that experience and how that can kind of maybe change the narrative that's out there as well. So yes, he'll also speak to his interest in science and his love for basketball. I love basketball as well. But having ADHD, as you know, there are a lot of students that have it, and especially kind of coming outside of the pandemic, right? There's a lot of students that have had a lot of kind of challenges in that space, right? So don't shy away from that in the college application. And if there's an opportunity, right, for your student to be able to kind of reach back a little bit and maybe help a younger student that has maybe ADHD or autism, and having at least conversations or having kind of, monthly kind of chats with that individual, whether it be in community or online, that's going to show well. And that's how you can illuminate kind of your student in his uniqueness in that regard.
Thank you so much. Yes, we plan to enroll him in the affinity group with other neurodivergent kids on campus and outside of campus. But thank you so much, Jason.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, we're getting to the end. I know there's a lot more questions, and I apologize not able to answer all your questions in the chat box. We have a limited time. There's a lot of questions, and thank you for obviously your company. Thank you, Jason, for your wonderful presentation. All the family, parents, if you think Jason personality, his method, his knowledge, his pool of wealth of experience, able to help your child to reach their goal, use him as a mentor. Use him as a mentor for child's growth through their high school is so essential, because many times when parents trying to conduct limited knowledge with your child might cause conflict, may cause a tension. So if you have somebody like Jason on the side, you can ask a question, you can have a monthly meeting, you can have a conversation, you can have somebody, to guide with you. Then obviously we'll have a lot more harmony in the family situation, nice dinner and stuff and weekends. So if you continue to have that interest, please scan the barcode on the right-hand side. Like I said, IvyCompass team, me and Allison will follow up with you, have a conversation, and then you have another opportunity, 30 minutes to have that one-on-one, asking more questions, more tailored question to Jason, okay? So scan the barcode. I'm gonna leave the screen for 2 minutes. Thanks again for all the parents with us tonight, and thank you for 222 people still with us after 11. And thank you, Jason, for your time again, and thank you, Allison. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful night, and looking forward to see you next time.